Nat the Darkfisher. You know, who needs cards when you're just killing your opponent, swinging for 2 every turn? But it's pretty cool that Hearthstone, you know, is kind of exploring their freedom of their alternate version of the Warcraft universe. So lots of old favorites in this set.
Yeah, be interested to see what they're coming up with in the future as well. This opens up a lot of design space for them. A big first step that the Team 5 has taken over at Blizzard. Really looking forward to it. But we're kind of curious what you guys have been playing out there on Ladder 2. You know, we've been talking about what strategies are going to stick to this event. I want to know what you've been playing with and what you've been doing with while on Ladder. So you can tweet at MSi Tweets, use the hashtag EGLX, or tweet at myself at That's Admirable or at Chalky_HS. Let us know what you've been brawling with and how you've been picking up some wins, or maybe just having some fun. You know, maybe you're kind of like me right now and you can't seem to pick up a win. That's okay. Just keep trying. We have a great tournament coming forward. If you're like me, you like to Google your deck list. Well, this is an event you probably want to watch for that.
Can't lose on the caster's desk, am I right? No O2s for me.
Common ground for you, is it?
Not common, but recently.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Yeah, so our first match kind of getting close to getting underway as players get seated and get ready to select their decks for their first round of play. It's going to be Firebat versus Timmahtim in our first broadcast match of the event. You're going to look at Timmahtim right there, bringing Warlock, Rogue, and Mage.
Yep, got a bye round 1 and took down Jinky 9000 in round 2. Now is in the winner's bracket round of 32, so pretty close. You know, honestly, already in the top 48 placement in this tournament guaranteed. Almost into the money. He's been playing competitive for about a year, but if you're talking about competitive, you don't look no further than this guy, Firebat.
Yeah, I mean, Firebat, 2014 world champion, of course, one of the highest money earners in the game right now. He plays for Cloud9. He's bringing Rogue, Mage, and Warrior. He played against Haymaker in his first round of the event. And kind of touching on that prize money, you might be wondering, well, how much money can you win playing Hearthstone? Well, Firebat's got over $200,000 in lifetime cashes in tournaments. So this is one of the guys you want to pay attention to when it comes to competitive. And we're getting into game number 1 right now. It's going to be Timmahtim bringing Rogue while Firebat's bringing Mage.
Yeah, and it looks like a Freeze Mage build from Firebat. It's going to be interesting to see how players are building Freeze Mage because with Mad Scientist rotating out, it's not really a matter of just replacing those 2 cards. Kind of the whole build has to change, and I think we're going to see that as the tournament progresses, that the more powerful Freeze Mage builds get further along. Yeah,
I mean, you did lose a little bit of damage not having that turn 2 Mad Scientist, and it may not seem like much, but sometimes that guy gets in 4 or 6 points of damage. Yeah. That's an entire fireball you're talking at that point. And it also, the card it drew, it always drew a secret, and it always played it onto the board. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of tempo that this deck lost.
Yeah, and on Timmahtim's side, we saw Faceless Manipulator in the mulligan, and that to me indicates, especially with that Cold Blood drawn, that this is probably a Miracle Rogue build, and it probably includes Saucy Deckhand and Emperor Thorson, and tries to burst his opponent down with those Cold Bloods, the Saucy, and the Faceless. Up to 20 points of burst from that combo alone. You don't even need the Emperor Thorson introductions. That's only 8 mana, so that could go a long way in bursting down Firebat, maybe popping the Ice Block and finding the reach to win the game.
Yeah, we talked to Timmahtim a little bit before this match. Said that one of his favorite classes is anything that kind of resembles the old Miracle Rogue builds.
Well, this basically is old Miracle Rogue. Whispers of the Old Gods kind of bringing that deck back into the forefront of competitive. A lot of players doing really well with it on ladder. Top 10 finishes in both, not finishes quite yet. Today's the last day of the season, but holding top 10 in both of the regions.
Yeah, Firebat just leads with Coin and Loot Hoarder. It's going to be met by a Hero Power from Timmahtim. This Novice Engineer, Firebat just going to cycle through a lot of cards. Wants to dig deep into his deck to find the right tools to put together that big endgame burst. There's a Shadow Strike. One of those new rogue cards, Whispers of the Old Gods, that will deal 5 damage to any undamaged character. And that can hit face if your opponent is undamaged.
Yeah, I doubt we'll be seeing that much in this tournament, but you never know. From Firebat's side, we're really kind of just waiting it out to see some of those more interesting choices. So far, we've seen pretty standard cards. We did see a Novice and a Loot Hoarder, so maybe a little bit of extra draw on that list alongside the Acolyte, but there's a lot of ways you can go with Freeze Mage now.
Yep. So no action for Timmahtim here on turn 4. I mean, having Edwin Van Cleef, Azure Drake as your only minions. Obviously, with Edwin Van Cleef, you want to couple it with something, but not really anything in hand to do with it.
Yeah, and this is essentially where Freeze Mage wants to be. He's not really getting punished for not having Mad Scientist now. He got the Ice Block down straight.
Yep, so it'll be pretty easy here for Firebat, I think, to handle this. 2 Doomsayers in hand, Emperor Thorson. I mean, this Emperor Thorson looks like it's getting pretty good here. I mean, he does have Frostbolt and Ice Lance in hand, so I could definitely see this hitting the board next turn. But then with the Acolyte, maybe some more card draws, but Firebat kind of second-guessing this. All of a sudden, he's just going to big face.
Yeah, and I mean, he looks at his hand. He's got 13 burn in there. I guess deciding he's not going to be Alex Drazing this game. There's that entire faceless combo picked up for Timmahtim. He's like 1 turn off from playing that, and it is 20 damage. So I think for him, it's really going to be a matter of how does he start getting this aggression going, getting his opponent down to 20, and getting that combo off.
We just received word, actually, this is a little bit backwards. Firebat is the rogue at the moment, so we got everything updated at this point, so ignore what we just said.
Right.
We've been casting from the wrong perspective. Firebat is the rogue. Timmahtim is actually the freeze mage in this situation.
Now, this doesn't really change much about the actual context of the game, but yeah, both players kind of are on the opposite sides than we thought.
So it's just going to be Frost Nova and Doomsayer, one of those very key turns you see from Mage, or Freeze Mage rather, very often. I mean, this is like the critical play that this deck has.
Yeah, and we're probably going to have to see Shadow Strike come out to answer it, but does that mean he also has to throw out the Saucy? Or maybe he'll just be willing to... Oh no, the Spell Power is going to let him use the dagger.
Yep. 6 damage because of that Azure Drake to an undamaged minion. I'll tell you what, that's a mighty clean answer to Doomsayer.
Yeah, and Firebat is already looking at popping that block next turn with this Saucy Cold Blood Faceless combo. Got 8 on the board, 20 from hand. Even Abyss is 24 from hand, so no matter what, he can pop that next turn. He can pop him as low as 4, or even 3 if he wanted to throw in the dagger attack as well.
That's so much damage from hand. I mean, this is taking me back.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Timmahtim doesn't really have much to deal with that. I mean, he's got some extra pings on face, but yeah, Firebat immediately going for that. Doesn't need to use the Eviscerate, which is a big deal. He gets to hold that back to pop the second block. Or, from his perspective, maybe even just kill his opponent.
Yeah, so here we go. I mean, that is a lot of damage from 2 South Sea deckhands.
Yeah. Not much to say about that. I mean, whew! Sometimes you just kill your opponent. In this case, pop an ice block.
Just a casual 20 damage on turn 8, backed up by the minions you have on board.
Yeah.
That's totally reasonable.
Seems
I
good.
typically have this amount of damage on turn 8.
Well, I mean, you play Face Hunter.
And Old Druid.
And Aggro Rogue.
Never forget.
Yeah, Rip Druid.
So block pop at 4. And again, that life total doesn't really matter too much because Firebat's got Eviscerate in hand.
Okay, he did pick up a second Ice Lance and a Blood Mage, so he's kind of counting his damage. You can see him mousing over the cards even. 17 from just the spells. If you can add in the Blood Mage, you can get around 20. Add in a ping, you're at about 21. So he's going to need to pick up more, and he's going to need to figure out how to use this mana efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, to cast Blood Mage, Fireball, Frostbolt, and 2 Ice Lances, you actually need 10 mana as well.
He's not going to get to 10 mana. He's going to cap out at 9 this game. Firebat's going to easily be able to plot block next turn. And important to note, Firebat has an Earthenring Farseer, and that's not something Timmahtim can afford to play around, and it's not something you're really going to want to play around anyway. A lot of healing has been taken out of this format alongside Lothep, so Freeze Mage has the liberty to kind of ignore a lot of board effects, and yeah, it looks like he's just going for it. If he could have picked up, I'm not really sure what would have gotten him the game, maybe a second Frostbolt?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, really what this is coming down
that'd
to,
be 18.
It's just the fact that his mana has been so restricted. I mean, the Ice Block got popped. He has to play another one on turn 8. Wasn't able to Blizzard and, like, say, hope that Firebat didn't have an Eviscerate in hand. I mean, I feel like that would have been kind of the play he was looking for in this turn. Instead, just boils down to this, and with no healing in hand, no further Ice Block, and no damage to kill Firebat, it looks like Timmahtim's going to fall in game 1.
Yeah, he's just going to go for Blizzard, most likely, and fall to that Eviscerate. Unfortunate for him. I believe he was playing to that second Frostbolt out with Blood Mage Thalnos. That would have been exactly 18 damage. So, you know, put himself in a way to win the game. But
and that came about because of that hero power that he used earlier in this game. I mean, really playing to his outs. Timmahtim, I mean, this is, honestly, it's such a little thing like that, but those little things are like what makes the game so very different in these competitive matches. Just that extra point of damage, playing the second Frostbolt out. You know, the times he draws it, he's going to look like a genius. And that's a big part of the competition. So as you said, just Blizzard coming out, it just looks like a very standard play to just hope that Firebat doesn't have the damage in hand, and you know, unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of obvious that Firebat wouldn't have the damage because he decided not to dagger up 2 turns ago, or he decided not to hit face with his dagger. So, kind of signaling that, yes, I do have a burn spell in my hand, and he's got the Eviscerate in this game.
Yeah, but you can see Gadsden Auctioneer is in this deck as well.
A little bit of BM.
You got to dig for those cards. You got to let everyone know exactly what your deck list is.
There is a little merit in going for, you know, some tilt of, wow, I got so lucky drawing all these really nice cards.
I'm even going to use some fun ways with it. No, let's just keep going. Why not?
I mean, this is pretty tilting. Like, this is game 1 of the series, and you know, it turns out your opponent actually just your opponent ripped all these cards back to back to back, and then barely killed you.
Saw Timmahtim crack a smile at that one. You can't help but smile at this. This is a good old reminder of the old days. You know, Timmahtim saying he's only been a competitive player for about a year now. There's a chance he doesn't remember this deck, but this used to rain terror on competitive players. And Gadsden Auctioneer cost 5 mana back then.
Oh, yeah.
Not the 6 mana it is today. So a very impressive game number 1 from Firebat. I mean, that was Jin on turn 8. 20 damage from hand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you draw all 4 pieces of your 4-card combo by turn 8, you're in pretty good shape.
And you guys want to complain to me about Druid burst damage.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty overpowered. So Firebat takes game number 1 here. So his rogue deck is now going to be locked. He's got Mage and Warrior left to work with. In Conquest, of course, when you win with a deck, that deck is no longer available in your lineup. You have to win with the other classes you brought to win that match. And with Mage and Warrior left behind, this is kind of an interesting spot for Timmahtim now, because Freeze Mage, we've seen it struggle a lot with Warrior in the past. But Patron Warrior seems to kind of be the competitive deck of choice at the moment.
Yeah, I think we could see kind of 2 different variations of Warrior. We've seen a lot of players like Just Saiyan and like Crane taking Patron Warrior back to the ladder. You know, it's a deck they were comfortable with, and they just thought, it's probably not that bad without Dustbite. Turns out it really wasn't. So that was something that surprised me. But I would expect Firebat to be that Patron Warrior, and there it is.
Yep. 2 ice blocks, mulliganed away for Timmahtim. Firebat, meanwhile, pretty interesting opening hand. Bloodhoof Brave is one that I've been kind of seeing creep into a lot of Warrior decks. You know, kind of at first look at this card, you got 4 mana, 2/6. That's not very good. That in Rage 3, that guy takes a single point damage. He's a 5/5 all of a sudden. And that is a very big deal.
Yeah.
4 mana, 5/5s. I mean, you're talking like Tomb Pillager's got 5 mana for 4 power. Savage Combatant's got 5 power for 4 mana. Excuse me. Bloodhoof Brave is like kind of the Warrior version of that.
And it's Taunt, which is also worth a lot of like statting on it. I mean, if you're playing against an aggressive deck, having an extra taunts in your deck can be very valuable. So we're going to see a very interesting matchup that I've seen so many pros go back and forth on how you're supposed to play this matchup from both sides. With the decks changing recently, I'm sure the matchup has also changed, and no one's really too aware of how it's going to go, but there's a lot of intricacies to this matchup as far as drawing cards, going into fatigue, how to use your board clears, and it's Freeze Mage versus Patron, as we can see here. What are your takes on this matchup?
Well, this is one where oftentimes when I've played it, I've just had opportunities to be aggressive with the Patron Warrior build, and so I feel like I've kind of been pushed into that dynamic. But here we see Ravaging Ghoul, one of those new Whispers of the Old Gods cards. Not only is taking a Loot Hoarder, but it's activating the Enrage on this. And this is kind of where this deck has gone now. Rather than just rely on Deathbite to control the board and then have it be an activator to multiple patrons, instead you just have lots of very strong turns that kind of move into your later stages and continue to keep pressure on your opponent. So this is kind of the vein that I've always been playing when I'm in the Freeze Mage matchup. And I'm curious, this build feels like it's stronger at doing that than the old builds were. So in the old builds, I probably think it was better to just go for big Armorsmith turns. But in this one, your deck is so much more aggressively built that I'm not sure you can afford to have that much time.
Yeah, I kind of view Patron Warrior as aggro Warrior with patrons in it. Core-Con Elites are in almost every build now. People are just running a lot more aggressive cards. You know, we saw him coin out the Bloodhoof and then proc it just for that 5 damage.
Yeah,
and maybe even just throwing out a Patron.
I mean, certainly can't blame him for this. You know, Patron, I think, is probably one of the weaker cards versus Freeze Mage, simply because it gets caught in so much AoE. You know, this is a card that you don't necessarily expect to live through this turn, but rolling into Timmahtim's turn 6, this Patron has a likelihood to present a big problem where it's either forcing AoE to prevent the damage or just being a threat. Firebat's just going to play it as a 3/3.
Yeah, and I know a lot of really good Freeze Mage players kind of view Freeze Mage as the aggressor in this matchup. You have to draw cards, present problems, and force the Patron to draw back to answer those problems. But when you get a start like this as Patron Warrior, you can really be the aggressor and force the Freeze Mage, you know, to use their spells on your minions. And then if you get that Armor Smith turn off, they're just not going to have enough damage to kill you.
So there's Frostbolt taking care of this Bloodhoof Brave for now. It's frozen, access to 1 damage next turn very easily for Timmahtim. And this is the point, I think, where Firebat's going to just continue to apply pressure. I mean, he kind of played his hand face up with that coin on the Bloodhoof Brave, and then the Ravaging Ghoul to follow it up. So there's no slowing down in sight for him at the moment. Now, the minions in his hand, though, are very utility-heavy minions. I mean, Wild Pyromancer, obviously, it damaging your own board can be beneficial at times, but for now, wants to have access to the spells in his hand. And Armor Smith, that's like one of those cards he's going to use that once Timmahtim has showed some pressure of his own, that Armor Smith can kind of re-stabilize you and disrupt the damage that he's throwing at your face.
Yeah, I think Timmahtim is going to get some good news if he starts to clear this board and realizes, oh, Firebat's out of minions. That was the one Patron, this was the one Bloodhoof in his hand, and he's going to clear these out. And Firebat doesn't really have a proactive response to this unless he wants to play, just a vanilla 3-2.
Falling Berserker.
That definitely helps.
It's also good to see this after Blizzard as well. I mean, the 4 health does present a little bit of a problem. You know, this just occupies a lot of mana from Timmahtim. If he wants to Forgotten Torch this, he needs to also use the Fire Blast hero power.
Yep, he's going to go with just that.
It looks like he went with Arcane Intellect over that Acolyte Pain.
Yeah,
don't blame him for that one.
And this isn't actually a mistake, probably a lot of draw last in the chat, but since the Roaring Torch goes into your deck, him casting Arcane Intellect second actually gave him a higher chance of drawing it, and he did draw one, so very premium spell.
Gets picked up here for Firebat.
Wow, he's one off.
Yeah, I mean, this is a go-for-it opportunity
putting him to one, and putting a 12-8 on the board.
Yeah, having a 12-8 on board's okay, too.
There's no big game hunter. I mean, Freeze didn't run that in the first place, but...
That is a lot of damage. Timmahtim hanging on by the skin of his teeth. No ice block in hand either.
Does he have the Iceland's face?
If he doesn't have an ice block, he certainly has to take care of this in some fashion. Frost Nova, if he wants to prevent that damage, he is going to have to Iceland's face.
If he can survive this, he's not in the worst place, but he's going to need to get that ice block.
Blood Ichor, of course, a new card from Old Gods as well. 1 damage to a minion.
Don't think he can hit face, chat.
If that minion survives, put a 2/2 slime into play. So Slam finds a Battle Rage. 2 more cards for Firebat.
Korkron would do it. Nope.
2 Armor Smith. I'll tell you what, though. This Execute is still going to continue to present a problem here, because not only is Firebat forcing Timmahtim to use spells to handle this, which is going to reduce his long-term damage, but he's also making headway at that armor total now. Up to 7 armor. If Timmahtim doesn't have an Archmage in this build, there's a chance that he just doesn't have the reach after killing all these minions.
And I mean, if Timmahtim drew an ice barrier here, he'd have a chance, but that's going to do it.
Yeah. Looks like he's just going to Roaring Torch his own face. Timmahtim drops game number 2. Firebat's Patron Warrior, an aggressive early start, and then a timely Gromish pickup.
Yeah, real timely, man. That's why he's the champ.
Just the right cards, the right time. Better players draw better cards, Chalky. Don't you know anything about that?
You've told me this. I'm not convinced, man. But, yeah, when you're going to draw Grom in a rage on 8 and your opponent's at 13, the only better thing is if they were at 12. So, yeah, I think Firebat's pretty happy to take that one. And that really shows kind of how Freeze Mage has lost a lot with the loss of Mad Scientist. No secrets up that whole game. There's just 2 less cards in your deck that cycle and grab those secrets immediately into play. That can be a big deal even against decks like Patron Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, still certainly a very strong deck, I believe.
Right.
But it's going to require a kind of a rebuilding of the shell to figure out how your early game goes. You know, you can't just draw a bunch of cards and hope that's going to work. Mad Scientist provided you a lot of leverage in terms of just your card economy and how much mana that you had to spend. I mean, having to invest 3 mana in secrets every time you want them out is much different.
We're not going to be done talking about Freeze Mage because we have a Freeze Mage mirror, and this is another one of those really interesting matchups. I mean, it's sort of since the introduction of Emperor Thorson, turned from one of those really always fatigue matchups to sometimes you just get your opponent. Emperor Thorson and Archmage Antonidas, along with some cheap spells, end up being very powerful in this matchup.
Yeah, Firebat's going to be the player with non-golden cards this game, while Timmahtim is going to be having a lot of gold cards that we've seen from him so far this game. And that is an Archmage Antonidas he has in his hand. So that long-term damage we were talking about last game may be lacking. He does have access to it should it come down to that. Archmage, always a threat to make a ton of fireballs here. But this one tends to go a lot slower in the early game. Just a lot of card draw back and forth, trying to set up those big hand potentials. Emperor Thorson, I would consider one of the most critical cards, as well as Alexstrasza, being super important to these game plans. But I know that you have a lot of experience in the Freeze Mage mirror, and you mentioned fatigue coming into it. What kind of situations do you see when fatigue is actually a game plan?
Well, as we see right here, both players are going for as much draw as possible. They're not really holding back quite yet. It really has to go to a really interesting board state where fatigue is a plan. And that's when you have essentially all you need to win the game and you can kind of stop drawing. But you do need to draw answers to your opponent's threats. If you let Emperor Thorson go unchecked, if you let Antonidas go unchecked, even if you let Alexstrasza go unchecked, you're looking at losing the game. So both players are going to have to draw a lot, and I really doubt fatigue's going to play into it too much, especially with the loss of Mad Scientist kind of reducing that deck thinning a bit. I think both players are just trying to rush towards that big Antonidas combo to give them enough fireballs to essentially win the game. Now, when we get down to the late game, there's a lot of interesting math. I know probably a lot of people are aware of the kind of bigger tournament games where Freeze Mage players will be pinging their own face in the mirror and like playing around Pyroblast or fireballs and fatigue, and it can get pretty crazy.
Yeah, we actually saw Tice made that play at the World Championships. He was rolling into Osaka's next turn where he'd be able to pop his Ice Block at a very low life total. So he used his hero power to put himself at 10 so that Pyroblast wasn't an available play, because the Pyroblast would pop the Ice Block and leave him at 10 life afterwards, because that lethal spot will prevent the damage that happens to it. But I mean, those are situations that are few and far between. You rarely come across them. And Timmahtim going to take this time to just start pushing damage on the Firebat's face.
You know, Coin Thorson here is pretty good.
It looks all right. I mean, he does have a Frostbolt, 2 Ice Lances, Arcane Intellect, and an Ice Block in his hand.
Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, without Mad Scientist, you do need to find a turn to get those secrets online. You don't just immediately get them for free. But when they're reduced and in a matchup kind of slow like this one, I think you're going to find plenty of time to get it down. But it does kind of make it so that if your opponent gets an explosive start like this, you don't really have much time to recover.
Yeah, and that's the big deal that you just hit right there, is the amount of time that he has after this Emperor Thorson. I mean, that's kind of like, that's when the timer has been set. And Firebat's now saying, you have to figure out a way to fend off what I'm doing or kill me before this happens. Like, so many card reductions, or cost reductions on these cards. I mean, so many different options get opened up because of this. And he's just going to continue to draw cards. I mean, 2 Acolytes instead of an Ice Block. Is there a threat of overdrawing in this situation?
There is, but rarely is that relevant. I mean, Firebat knows he's got Alexstrasza, which is probably the single most relevant card right now, dealing 15 points of damage. There's no heal bot left, so really there's no way to defend against Alexstrasza, and I really don't think a fatigue game plan is something you're worried about when you have such strong options like this. If your opponent wants to give you draw 4 right now in exchange for discarding a few cards that aren't relevant until the end of the game, then go ahead. And I think that's exactly what Firebat thinks.
I mean, I can't blame him. The Alexstrasza draw, I mean, that seems like the key card right now. I mean, he's already past Emperor. He's got the big discount. He needs to draw cards. He already has the Alexstrasza. The 15's locked up from there. I think I'm in total agreement. Timmahtim just going to keep digging in the meantime.
I feel like maybe Ice Block could be a really nice play this turn. You sort of threaten that it's an ice barrier, which means Firebat can't attack with these Acolytes. That's, you know, the risk reward on that, gaining 2 damage when you have Alexstrasza anyway. You basically lock these guys up. It's not huge because Firebat does have Alexstrasza, but from Timmahtim's perspective, getting rid of that chip damage is very important.
2 fireballs added to hand. And I think this is a turn where Firebat's going to slow down. I don't imagine he's going to be trying to draw too many more cards here. I mean,
I think he can.
Well,
I think he can afford. I think he can afford to do this because if Timmahtim wants to overdraw, kind of like I talked about, it's going to take up resources and mana.
Yeah.
Like if he uses that Cone of Cold to overdraw and then he pings an Acolyte, what's he really do? He overdraws Firebat by 2, and that's it. That's what he used his turn to do. Is that really something you're worried about?
I don't think so. I mean, Timmahtim doesn't really have anything else to do.
Those are weak cards to draw, so.
Yeah, I'm not really sure it matters, though. I mean, just the amount of damage that Firebat's put together.
Yeah, don't care about that one.
I think he's happy to see that gone. It's
well,
like a card he doesn't want to draw.
Right. Don't care about that one.
Yep, it's going to be Doomsayer and looking like maybe Blizzard or
Frost
Nova.
Get it out of his hand. Yep. Doesn't need the ping damage because he's rolling into Alexstrasza next turn. And this is, you know, something that it's very common in this matchup is Doomsayering before your opponent's important turns. We're rolling right into turn 9 for Timmahtim, and Firebat drops the Doomsayer. No Alexstrasza going to come out unless Timmahtim's willing to sacrifice the 8/8 body along with it. And it's rolling right into Firebat's Alexstrasza turn, where he's going to do it on an empty board and threaten to attack for 8 each turn.
Now, that being said, Timmahtim does have quite a bit of damage in hand. Let's count this up. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 damage from hand at the moment. So I actually think Alexstrasza is not a lost cause right here. I mean, it only deals 6 points of damage, but I think the bigger factor here is that it's freeing up hand space. It's using mana on a turn where you don't really have too many other appealing plays, and it's setting you up to pop that Ice Block next turn. If Firebat can't pop his Ice Block,
I would go for it right now,
yeah. I mean, the player who pops the first Ice Block
with no heal bot
typically has a big advantage.
So I'd like to see him, I kind of like this. I almost wouldn't like a ping because next turn you can go Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Roaring Torch, and ping, and that sets your opponent to exactly 1 and pops them, and it doesn't let your opponent like Alex himself. So I like that he held back a little bit because now Firebat's not going to Alex himself, and now I think Timmahtim's in a spot to be the first block pop and maybe beat this Alexstrasza.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big deal, just the fact that Timmahtim's drawn so much damage. You know, being 1 turn behind, I really like Firebat's play of the Doomsayer to discourage the Alexstrasza play. But now the Alexstrasza potential defensive use.
I mean, it's got to come out offensively from Firebat's point of view.
And a second Ice Block.
I almost think that just locks up the game. I mean, Firebat could draw his second Ice Block, but Timmahtim's got the Pyroblast to pop it, and yeah, as long as Timmahtim goes for it this turn, I mean, how do you really lose from this spot?
Well, is going to have to Frost over that Alexstrasza as well, so no attack for Firebat in that regard, but that is the first Ice Block gone for Firebat. Pyroblast in hand and his own Ice Block setup. I think Timmahtim just won this game.
Oh, I definitely agree. Frost Nova just kind of some luxury there, stops the Fireball from coming in and popping them at 1, and yeah, that's it.
Wow.
No second Ice Block. Again, just kind of showcasing how much you can miss Mad Scientist.
This is just so crazy how this game panned out. I mean, this was like an all Firebat here, and just Timmahtim, you know, picking up a couple of key cards at the end. That Roaring Torch making a big difference.
Yeah, and we saw his early aggression popping off both of the Forgotten Torches as fast as possible and then trying to draw towards them. And it really paid off. He got 30 damage from purely spells, didn't need the Alexstrasza, and that ended up being the reason why he was able to pick up this game.
Yep. Hoping it's Ice Barrier, but there's the unfortunate news.
Yeah.
For the Firebat. The new card from the old gods. Pyroblast to the face. Oh yeah, Timmahtim picks up his first game. And on the board, it's got to be feeling good. You know, being down 0-2, anyone who's played tournaments for a while has been in this situation before in a series where you're down 2 games and you're not feeling very good about it. But getting that first win when you're down 0-2, suddenly you kind of look at it and go, you know what, I still can win this.
Yeah. He's got, I believe, Rogue and Warlock left.
Yeah, so his Mage deck is now locked at the point.
Not the greatest things to be heading into Freeze Mage with, but we did see Firebat was able to take the Rogue versus Freeze Mage matchup. Maybe the same thing can happen, and we're going to have to see what Warlock build he's using. I would expect Zoo, but it's interesting to note Warlock is so far the highest performing deck in the tournament at 61% win rate.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's incredible.
But first, we're going to see Rogue out here from Timmahtim. This is his favorite deck. Wouldn't be surprised to see just a miracle build, kind of like Firebat's. But there are some tech choices in there. We saw Firebat with a little bit of flair with the Sousy Cold Blood Faceless combo, going the full distance on that combo. Some people just, have the Sousy and the Cold Bloods, no Faceless. But if you're going to draw them like Firebat does, might as well throw them in there.
He loves to play his combo decks, that's for sure.
Definitely does.
Will never shy away from being able to burst someone with lots of damage while ignoring what their opponent does at the same time. So Freeze Mage versus Rogue at the moment. I mean, like you said, Firebat won the Rogue versus Freeze Mage game himself, largely on the back of that giant burst damage.
Right.
Timmahtim right now doesn't have any sight of that, and a second Gadget and Auctioneer gets picked up. That is a really ugly draw. I mean, this is a card you have 2 copies of because it's so important to your build, but not a card you have 2 copies of because you want to draw 2 of them.
Yeah. Now, which one does have the best deals anywhere? Because they can't both have them.
They're competing.
Which one do you think he's going to go with, left or right? I'm going to say left.
Team left, yeah.
Yeah, team left.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're going to have to wait a bit to see on that one, but just going to, throw up vanilla minions, not using that combo on the SI, just needs to get some pressure on the board, maybe force out a Torch or a Frostbolt from Firebat's side.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can force damage as the Rogue player, I think it's kind of a win situation.
Right.
You're largely racing against a clock that is against you, and so when the Mage player has to Frostbolt or has to Forgotten Torch these, you're not excited about it, but you're not unhappy about it either. I mean, anytime they expend damage, that's just one extra card they're going to have to pick up long term in order to kill you. Whereas from the Rogue side, every single one of your minions is a threat. It basically doesn't matter which one it is. One sticks to the board, it can be cold-blooded, it's going to attack for some amount. Those are the big deals. And
we see that that Doomsayer play coming in again right before a key turn like Emperor Thorson. And it's also going to shut off something like Coin Auctioneer if he had some preps to go along with it. So kind of turns off Timmahtim's on-curve plays. Like, he can't just slam the Azure Drake now. He had the choice to go with maybe like Phantom Knives Dagger, but he's going to go with a much more aggressive play. Get the sap, get down that extra damage, and start pushing.
Yeah, and I really like this simply because of the sake of that damage clock being against him right now. He's going to have to find repetitive damage from these to be his major threat. And so that sap is going to be Firebat's go-ahead for the Emperor Thorson. Wouldn't blame him anyway, just a handful of cards that he needs a discount on. But Timmahtim still some great answers to this. I mean, Azure Drake, Eviscerate, looking mighty good right now.
Yeah, you do have to be a little worried about Flame Strike coming out, maybe a Blizzard. So maybe don't want to load too heavy, but...
Ooh, Reparation gets drawn. Those Auctioneers are looking a lot better now. So given the fact that he's thinking about maybe Flame Strike, is there a chance that he ever trades here instead, or is trade ever a consideration?
It would save your coin, but that's about it. It would save your coin, save your Eviscerate. I mean, knowing what we know, it'd probably be a little better because that clear is coming out, but I think you got to make your opponent have it. Usually it's just a one-up here. Firebat has it, and maybe just going to opt for... This lets him get down the ice block, and I think he's going to go with both Doomsayers, yeah.
Wow, very interesting play. I mean, I guess what does he need the second one for at this point?
Yeah.
He's got Flame Strike, he's got Alex Strazza, he's got plenty of burn in hand. He just needs a Doomsayer to happen.
I wonder if Timmahtim can clear this.
Well, it's going to start with a Phantom Knives.
2 spell power Phantom Knives.
Yeah, not quite.
Yeah, with no Blade Flurry available since the nerf, I mean, probably not in that deck, but no 2-mana Blade Flurry. That was the card you kind of used to clear these board states.
This is the kind of turn we didn't see from Timmahtim either. He didn't really have one of those big Frost Nova Doomsayer turns versus the Rogue deck that was very critical. Instead, he just was kind of drawing cards the whole time. And
Yeah.
Never really got to a safe turn, and Firebat just 20'd him from hand.
Firebat has all the tools he needs to end this game. He's got Alexstrasza reduced by Thorson. Gonna throw that out next turn almost for sure. And
I would say it's about 100% chance.
And I mean, I don't know if the Gadgets and Auctioneers are gonna even come out.
I don't know if they can. This might just be it. Just in case you don't have enough, let's add some more to it. And there we go, set to 15 from Alexstrasza.
Yep.
And he's got Ice Block down. I mean, even if Timmahtim had the damage to kill him,
well,
the Ice Block would pop.
He doesn't have 15 from hand in one turn, but he does get the sap, so, but he can't pop this turn, and that's really the big thing. Without Lothep being in the game, there's not really a way Timmahtim's going to be able to stop that damage next turn. I mean, there is sort of a small out in his deck, maybe Undercity Huckster into an Ice Block of his own. That's something, you know, I've kind of gone for before.
It'd be a tough one to spot.
Desperate
for sure.
times.
Yep, Tomb Pillager. So here we go. We're going to find out what Timmahtim can pick up from this, but his back's against the wall. It has to be this turn.
Yeah, I think he's mostly, it looks like he is digging for, yeah, that's going to be some heal.
Ooh, Malagos.
Shows that he's Malagos. Probably not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. And Firebat's got a wealth of burn spell riches.
An embarrassment of riches, indeed. Fireball, Forgotten Torch. That's going to do it. Firebat's going to wrap up this series 3-1 with Patron Warrior, South Sea Deckhand Combo Rogue, and Freeze Mage.
Yep, and moves into the winner's bracket top 16 in this tournament. Timmahtim